'Cause it's a daily vlog with Steve and Fuller.
Vlog 9, college. All right, so when it comes to college, I am kind of like a little bit of a failure. So here's the story. I didn't start college until I was probably, what would I have been? 26 maybe? 26 years old. I took like 3 classes when I was like 19 because I joined the Air Force right out of high school. So I went in right at 18. And yeah, so I took like 3 classes and that was it. But I mostly joined the military because I was like, no, I don't want to go to college. I'm gonna be a hero. I'm gonna jump out of planes and shoot guns and save people, which is just total bullshit. It's not at all how that works. So then when I started going to college, I had no earthly idea what it was that I wanted to do or major in. So I started taking general education classes and requirements and just sort of threw darts at the wall essentially. So I changed my major probably 5 times. So at this point in my life, I think at last count, and I haven't counted it in a couple of years, and I've taken some classes since then, so just guessing, in semester hours, I have somewhere in the neighborhood of like 260 semester hours of credit. And so I've got like 2 associate's degrees with a 3rd one on the way, 2 like undergrad certificates, 3 undergrad certificates and a bunch of credits, and no bachelor's degree. Not one, not a single bachelor's degree. The closest bachelor's degree that I have is with Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in aeronautics, a Bachelor of Science in Aeronautics, and I am, to this day, I'm 7 classes away from that degree. And I'm just not gonna do it. I'm not gonna finish it. I don't want that as a major. The 7 classes that remain are all like aircraft crash investigation and stuff like that. No, no. I majored briefly in nuclear medicine technology, psychology, behavioral science, aeronautics, technical management. What else? I think that was it on bachelor's degrees, if I remember right. And then on associate's degrees, it's like, then I finished an associate's in technical management. I've got air and space operations technology, which is useless, does nothing for me. In fact, I've only ever been asked about it in 2 job interviews. And in both of them, they looked at it, they were like, oh, air and space, oh, okay, oh, what's that? And I tried to sort of come up with a really good explanation in the interview. Just useless. And so then I've got one that's like on the way, I guess, at some point this year in mass communications. And then my undergrad certificates are all from Berklee College of Music. One is in orchestration for film and games. One's in producing music with Logic, and then a general music studies. I love taking classes, and yet apparently I suck at college. And I don't know what to do with all these credits. And yes, I have tried many a time to go in and do some like interdisciplinary studies major just to finish something. But every college wants you to take in-residence courses with them. They won't take all the transfer credits. It's just a nightmare. And I've tried several times. So I kind of accepted probably about 2 years ago that like, I don't regret any of the college that I have done. But I think finishing a degree at this point is sort of, it would be perfunctory, you know? It's not gonna help me achieve the goals that I've got. And it's just not going to. And so here's a good story. With Berklee, a couple vlogs ago, you guys probably remember I said I'm a cyclical person, and I finally accepted that about myself. Well, one of the things that goes along with being a cyclical person is that my interests come in and out like the tide. And they always do come back in, but I'm like a tidal cyclical person when it comes to interests. And so I always start classes with the very best of intentions of like, oh yeah, this will be awesome. I've wanted to learn about this. Cool, woo. And then I get into the class, and if it's not an in-residence class, which we've never lived kind of close enough to a university with evening time classes since I'm a working adult, to where that was practical. So I've always, for the most part, I had to take online classes. And online classes invariably are, read the chapter, write a paragraph explaining your thoughts on this thing, comment on 3 people's assignments, and blah, 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 on and on. That's not learning to me. You're checking boxes at that point, and it bugs the shit out of me. I love learning. I've realized that I'm a lifelong learner. I am constantly reading and testing and experimenting and trying to learn new things. But online classes for me became an exercise in box checking. And it's sort of a soul suck. I felt like, I could just be working on things that I want to work on right now. Why am I, for what reason am I checking this box? So that all came to sort of a culmination with my last couple of classes with Berkeley. So Berkeley's online programs for a long time, they just recently started doing like all of the bachelor's degree programs. For a long time, they were just certificate programs. And you could roll certain classes into another certificate after you'd finish and, that kind of stuff. And so I finished 3 certificates, but I was going to start the bachelor's program. And I was trying to sort of strategically plan classes for that. And so the last semester that I took with Berkeley, I sort of overloaded myself being idealistic and like trying to be all responsible and like, come on, Steve, get with it. Damn it, you should finish a degree of some kind because that's what responsible adults do. And so I talked myself into a full-time course load. It was just 4 classes. 2 of them were classes I was really interested in and severely overestimated my ability in. So one was jazz composition and the other one was advanced jazz guitar. And so I was thinking, hey, I've been playing guitar for 20 plus years at this point. I've been listening to Pat Metheny for a long time. I know a bunch of extended jazz chords. I should be good. It'll be a challenge, but I should be able to roll. And the first week of the class, and this is one out of several. There's jazz comp too, but like my first week of advanced jazz guitar was like, okay, so we're going to be transcribing a Charlie Parker solo in, the 7th mode of melodic minor. And the homework assignment is to transcribe it, play it note for note, and record it, and, and it was like, oh, whoa, I'm severely overestimated my abilities. And so by the second week, I was just out of my depth. I was totally drowning. Jazz comp I was hanging with, but it was a lot of work, It was like composing tunes every week. You're composing a big piece for, multiple instruments and stuff like that. I was trying my best to keep up, but I got really like discouraged in the advanced jazz guitar class because I was obviously plainly the absolute weakest link in the class. I would listen to my classmates' assignments and they would just be shredding perfectly with this beautiful clean tone. And I'm like, barely, after, 8 hours over a couple of days, barely had a mildly clean take that was just still awful, And the instructor, he would rightfully sort of grade me and be like, well, you got to work on this. No, you missed that note. No, you kind of fell back into, just soloing in the key. We need you to solo over the changes intelligently and stuff. And it was like, whoa. It was a big moment of humility for me, which was great. And I look back on that with full fondness. So after that, I sort of fell into a bit of discouragement. I get really intensely self-critical when I feel like I'm out of my depth. I was beating myself up like, you got to stay with it, you got to put in the work, and then that made me feel even more guilty, and it was just kind of a bad cycle. I got behind in the class by like 6 weeks, just totally no excuses, just bombing it. Contacted the instructors. I told them like, hey, listen, no bullshit. I'm basically totally behind. I'm still gonna do all the work. You just give me the grade that the best I can get, and or the best that I can earn at this point in the course, right? And I understand if that's not anything, but I'm still gonna do it, and they're like, yeah, okay. And so I got, did this marathon session where I caught up on all of my classes in like a 4-day period. It was just like, 12-hour days each time trying to get it all done. And I failed both of the classes miserably. And learned probably more than any of the classes that I've ever passed. And by the way, I didn't go back and make those classes up and get passing grades. They are still on my record as like fails. And I ended up getting the certificate from just some of the other classes that I had already completed. These were electives that I wanted to take. But at that point, this was, 2-3 years ago, I just sort of realized like the current system of higher education, I'm clearly not, I don't know, it's not working for me somehow. Even though I've got all this stuff, and it's not that I don't like to learn, and I'd like to think it's not that I'm like the dumbest guy in the room, although that's certainly a possibility. It's just, we have turned college into such a transactional thing. Like you do this to go get a job. You must go to school and get this degree to get good pay, and that's not my path. That's not going to be my path. As a freelance musician, I gained a lot from it. I finished some stuff. There's certificates, and so I guess that's cool. But I don't know. I still struggle with like, should I try to somehow go back and finish like a bachelor's degree or whatever? And I don't know. What are your thoughts on college? I'm at a loss. Like, I've basically just accepted like, hey, this is part of my story, and if it helps somebody, great. Clearly, I'm not a college dropout. I've graduated several times with like menial degrees, low. I've got a ton of low degrees and not even a bachelor's degree. So I don't know what to do with that. I'm happy. I learned a lot. I don't feel like I'm uneducated. I'm constantly reading and teaching myself new things. Constantly aware that, my knowledge is incomplete on issues. And isn't that sort of the point, in a way? Like if you were to separate it away from go to college equals job, isn't that sort of the point, to become intellectually curious and be a lifelong learner? I don't know. See you tomorrow.